This is We Have Options, hosted by me, personal finance expert Dominique Broadway. I left my career as a financial advisor to the 1% to help the 99% build generational wealth. No matter who you are, you have options, and I am here to help you turn those options into dollar signs. This week, and I know I say the same thing every week, but this week has been another wild week in the markets, not necessarily with a lot of volatility, but more because of earnings. This was another big earnings week and another big layoffs week, unfortunately. And that's been just really tough to see. These numbers constantly coming out. I'm not sure how you guys feel, but it makes me feel like, this is just not, it definitely makes people lose a lot of confidence in the economy and also in the markets. But I just wanted to start this off by saying, despite all the things that are going on, this is still a very good time to be investing and still a really, really, really good time to be trading. So don't let all of the fear and things that are happening in the markets freak you out too much. Okay. So with that being said, let's talk about some of the things that have happened this week. So as I mentioned, layoffs. I feel like this week started out with layoff announcements. Disney announcing that they're laying off more people, Amazon announcing that they're laying off more people, and now they're doing, I guess, more people in the cloud division and the HR division, and also Meta announcing another round of layoffs. So it seems like these layoffs are just continuing. I think also Microsoft announced that they were going to be doing some more layoffs. And so it has just been wild, right? The layoffs have just been wild. So that's how I'm kind of feeling with all these things going on. I'm still very optimistic. And also I constantly think back to 2008, 2009, after I graduated college and the world was falling apart, very similarly to this. I almost feel like it was actually worse. And remembering the strong rebound that the economy had and that the markets had after. And it was beautiful, right? If you were able to be in the markets during those times. And I really wasn't able to be in them the way that I can be now. But trust me, we're positioned to have some very healthy, wealthy next few years. Okay. All right. So we talked a little bit about layoffs. Let's also talk about jobless claims. So despite the fact that jobless claim that layoffs are starting to continue, jobless claims actually fell by 16,000 this week, which was a bit, honestly, unexpected. I mean, I think that because so many of these companies are giving severance packages out, people are kind of delaying when they're actually applying for unemployment. So yes, they've fallen this week, but I do secretly kind of fear that in the next coming weeks that we'll start to see more those jobless claims start to actually increase, because now we'll start to see more of the people, especially a lot of people from these tech companies, starting to finally start filing for unemployment post layoff and severance ending. Okay. All right. So this was week 2 of earnings season, of the big earnings season, or I would say the real week of when earnings season for Q2 has begun. So this week had everybody and their mama reporting earnings. Okay. So I'm going to have to, it's so many, I had to put them on my phone as a list here. Okay. All right. So this week was a very big week. All right. So we had Coca-Cola announcing their earnings. Apparently people are buying Coke up a storm, and they had a nice little bump in their earnings. We had Coca-Cola, First Republic Bank, had a obviously reported a loss. Obviously, as well from the last quarter. We also had Verizon, UPS, McDonald's saw some nice bumps. Apparently people are buying fast food in droves, right? Also Spotify was another that ended up having some big rises, and we'll get back to the details of who had big rises. But Spotify, PepsiCo, Microsoft, Alphabet, Visa, Chipotle, Texas Instrument, Boeing, Meta, Roku, Hilton, ADP, Crocs, MasterCard, Amazon, Intel, Snap, Exxon, American Airlines. You guys, that's just to name a few. So this was a really, really big earnings week, which means there's a lot of money to be made this week if you were right on which side or which way you think that these stocks will go. Okay. So let's pinpoint a few of the stocks that did make some moves this week. All right. So one of the first ones here is Spotify. As I mentioned, Spotify rose about $7 after seeing a nice bump in increase from their subscribers, right? But apparently they're still struggling to monetize, I guess, the actual, like the other part of their business, apparently. But from the subscriber standpoint, they're doing really great. So they rose about $7, which is a nice bump if you had, calls or something that was call heavy, any trades that were call heavy. Also, Meta actually rose this week, rose about $28 from their earnings. Okay. So their earnings were a little better than anticipated from last quarter. Another company that rose was American Airlines. American Airlines rose about 0.7%, not a huge jump, but about 0.7%, as there is a huge demand in travel. People are just really excited to be back outside. You guys, really excited to be back outside. I know I am excited to be back outside. Okay. And so because of that, these airlines are actually seeing really great returns and really great gains, as well as Delta also saw really great returns and gains last week as well, that they actually reported. Okay. Some more earnings. Southwest Airlines stock actually did well based on their earnings, but apparently the stock fell about 5.89% because apparently they have some sort of Boeing problem. I'm not 100% sure what that means exactly, but apparently there's a problem with Boeing, or I'm not sure. Anyway, they got some issues going on. Their stock ended up falling 5.89%. One of the big winners this week was definitely the provider of our rice and beans and chickens in a cute little bowl, Chipotle. Okay. Chipotle stock shot up because y'all are back to buying Chipotle again. Do y'all remember when we stopped buying Chipotle for like a year because it was messing up all of our tummies? Well, we're back. We're loving it again. They just released a whole new little flavored chicken. What is it? Chicken al pastor, or polo al pastor. I got it recently. It was pretty good. Not going to lie. But their stock shot up $94 and actually ended up continuously going, and they're up over $200 this week. So if you had any calls or any long positions on Chipotle, you're probably walking around like this. For those on audio, I'm smiling. Okay. All right. So Chipotle did their thing this week. All right. So let's jump into next week. We're heading into week 3 of a strong earnings, the last kind of really big companies. So next week we have a few companies. We have SoFi, Norwegian Cruise Lines. Let's see what else we have. Park Hotels and Resorts. Going into Tuesday next week, we also have Pfizer, BP, Marriott, Sunoco, Lending-Tree, Ecolab. All right. And then going into next Thursday, which is going to be even bigger day, we have Moderna, Royal Caribbean, Conoco, Shell, Planet Fitness, Wayfair, Kellogg, Anheuser-Busch, PG&E, Hyatt Hotels. So next week, Ferrari, there's going to be the Carlyle Group, so many amazing companies next week. Blue Apron, Cars.com, Shake Shack. I love a Shake Shack burger. So next week, we're gearing up for another very big earnings week. All right. Another very big earnings week. So as I mentioned, with these earnings, you do not need to be in every single trade, right? You do not need to be in every single trade. If you're not feeling super confident or feeling like it's a high probability trade, don't feel like you need to be in every single trade just because there's a million companies announcing their earnings during earnings, the first few weeks of Q2. All right. But keeping in mind that next week will probably be not the last week, but just the last of the really big companies. All right. But don't feel like you need to be in every single trade. It's not necessary. And as you can see, we had a Q1, we'll have a Q2, which means we'll be releasing Q2 earnings in the next quarter, right? So there's tons of opportunities every week for you to make money in the markets. The markets aren't going anywhere. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode with a affirmation. Okay. A affirmation. I love this. I boldly conquer my money goals. I boldly conquer my money goals. Hopefully you are still conquering and killing your money goals despite what's going on in the world and despite what's going on in the economy. We Have Options is a production of Money News Network. We Have Options is written and hosted by me, Dominique Broadway. Our executive producer is Morgan Lavoie.